Okay. Hello and welcome to NEA New Mexico's take on public school legislation, where we interview key legislators, true public school champions that are pushing the needle in favor of our public schools and students. I'm Steve Ciañez, Government Relations Director for NEA New Mexico. And today joining us is Representative G. Andres Romero, representing House District 10, Bernalillo County. He was elected into office in 2015. Representative Romero chairs the House Education Committee and is also a member of the Legislative Education Study Committee, an interim committee. Representative Romero earned a BA from the University of New Mexico and is currently a high school social studies teacher. So let me welcome Representative Romero. Thank you for joining us today, Representative Romero. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me, Steve. It's a pleasure to be here.
Let's jump into our interview. Let's start with K-5 Plus and extended learning time programs for next school year. There has been plenty of discussion around these two programs, and we know you sponsored HB 184, a bill that didn't necessarily pass, but was incorporated into HB 2 and creates a 2-year pilot project that allows elementary schools to add 140 instructional hours to a school calendar as opposed to days. So tell us more of why you sponsored HB 184.
Sure. So to take it back a couple years, 2019 legislative session is when we expanded the K3 program into K5 plus, and then implemented the extended learning time program. And even at that time, there had been discussion about adding equivalent hours, so adding time into the day instead of adding days to the existing calendar. And that's something that had just been talk at that point and never made it through in 2019. Well, these talks have continued, and actually some schools within Albuquerque Public Schools have implemented an equivalent hours type model, so adding time to the day. And they're seeing some pretty good results with that program. So this is something and an idea that's been around for a while, and I think a lot of educators, a lot of administrators around the state have really kind of rallied around this idea of, okay, well, let's have another option to continually add flexibility. I think if there was one buzzword for this past legislative session, it was about flexibility, right? Giving districts, giving schools more options to address the needs of their students. And I see equivalent hours as being a viable program to give that sort of flexibility to schools to make that decision on what's really good for their student population. And I think something like adding time into the day can increase professional development for our educators. We can have things like enrichment opportunities for students within the day. I think for working families, it really helps out to have that extended time where families don't have to find an alternative place after school for their children, that they can stay within the school setting and do something truly enriching and engaging for that time. So it was something that I think the entire House of Representatives had rallied behind as an alternative to adding days to the calendar. And I think it very much aligns with some best practices that we have talked about. I think embedding professional development time for educators could be a really useful thing for many of our educators. And for our students, adding that enrichment time can truly benefit them, but it was really about adding flexibility for all of our schools in all of our districts to be able to make that choice for themselves as what best fits their school and their student population.
You know, the Yazzie Martinez lawsuit ordered the state to provide a sufficient education to all public school students. So how did the 2020 legislative session get us closer to meeting this goal?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question, and it kind of ties in with the extended learning K-5 plus debate as well, because those programs had been implemented just as the Yazzie Martinez ruling had come down from Judge Singleton, and found that we are not, as a state, sufficiently funding public education, and part of that debate around these programs is, are they viable, and are they really working to meet the goals of the Martinez Yazzie lawsuit? That was another reason why going with House Bill 184, I think, was another step in that direction. But to get more specific about how we're starting to address the lawsuit, I think we're really having to build that over the next few years, and we have been since 2019 trying to work on recruiting and retaining our educators, making sure that we're starting to increase wages for not just our educators, but for our entire support staff. I think is something very, very crucial, that we're making sure that we have particularly educators staying in the field, and that we're able to recruit our best and brightest into the field. This past year, there was a bill on special education and having an ombudsman for special education that is speaking directly toward our special education students, parents, so that they can have an advocate there looking over special education. There is a tribal remedy package that the bills had not been passed, but that were incorporated into the budget as well, just like the pilot project for equivalent hours. So there was about, I believe the number was about $35 million to recruit Native American educators, to set up tribal libraries and such. I think that was one of the other ways that we were looking at addressing the lawsuit. I think one of the things that, and I know you're asking about what we did, I think one of the key things, and I wouldn't say it particularly addresses the lawsuit necessarily, but was impact aid. I think that was a pretty big move in giving the impact aid school districts, the ones that are accruing impact aid, their impact aid, and the state not taking credit on that impact aid.
Well, thank you, Representative Romero, for taking time out of your busy schedule to meet with us. NEA-New Mexico looks forward to working with you in the future, and then just really working towards delivering that promise of a quality public education for all students. Thank you very much. We wish you the best, and stay safe.
Great. Thank you all so much. Stay safe. We'll talk to you soon.